Hello, welcome back to my channel. So this week I wanted to focus on reading anticipated releases because there are a couple releases that are coming out / have come out this year that I've been anticipating and I haven't really gotten around to. And one of my goals for the year is to read anticipated releases when they come out, when I'm very excited about them. So that is the goal for this vlog. So the 3 anticipated releases that I have lined up for this vlog are Hellbent. Now I'm gonna give you a disclaimer about Hellbent and just Ninth House in general. I didn't love Ninth House. I think I gave it a 3.5 stars. I was thoroughly confused in the first half of the book. I had many a problem with this book, but the way that people have been talking about the second book, it just sounds so much better than Ninth House. And some of the things that they're talking about are buzzwords, so I've become really excited for this. This is now an anticipated release for me. It has already released. I already have a copy, so why not read it? If you don't know anything about Ninth House is a dark academia set on the Yale campus. You follow our main character Alex, and Alex is able to see grays or ghosts, and because of this ability she ends up getting admitted to Yale even though she doesn't have the grades and she doesn't really have the background for most Yale students or people who get admitted to Yale. They're essentially using her for her ability to communicate with these ghosts because there are weird things happening with these secret societies on the Yale campus. It's very occult, it's very murder mystery, it's very dark academia. I would say the main focus of Ninth House is definitely the secret societies and this murder that happened, and it kind of turns into a murder mystery. The thing about Ninth House is it ends on a cliffhanger, which is what made me kind of interested in reading the second one. So I'm really looking forward to diving into this second book, and hopefully it starts to become a favorite series because I really do love Leigh Bardugo. Another anticipated release comes out tomorrow, and that is The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi, and I am so excited about this. So this is S.A. Chakraborty's second trilogy that she's embarking on. She's the author of City of Brass. This is supposed to be a pirate book. The main character is in her 40s. She has a child and she's sort of enticed to go on one last pirate smuggling type of adventure, and I'm so excited. I love pirate things, okay? I would say the closest to my perfect pirate book so far has been the Live Ship Trader trilogy. Love that trilogy. It's probably gonna be a different vibe than this. I think this one's gonna be a little more funny and, you know, fast paced. And then lastly, I have a Libro FM for Lone Women by Victor LaValle. I love Victor LaValle. The Changeling is one of my all-time favorite horror books. So I am really looking forward to this. We haven't really had a new release from Victor LaValle in a while. This one sounds interesting. So from what I know, you're following a main character named Adeline. She's on the run from something. Her parents are dead. She's on the run. She's gonna go homestead, and I think there's something dark and sinister following her. So this is supposed to be a horror, but I think if I know anything about Victor LaValle, it'll probably be lighter on the horror. It'll be a build-up to that horror, which I'm really looking forward to. I really love those types of horror books, so I'm very excited. I think that I have a really good chance of giving these all pretty high ratings. The only one I'm like on the fence about is Hellbent, but otherwise I'm very excited. I'm hoping to find my second 5-star read. Is that ambitious? According to this reading year, kinda.
That I've told and many secrets that I hold. Not ready to see the truth unfold. Didn't know that time could go so slow. If only I just listened to your words.
Good morning. So it's out. I'm 3% into it, and I'm already obsessed. And sure, I'm only 3% in, but like it's already off to a really good start. This is a story within a story type of structure because there's a scribe and Amina is kind of telling her biography, and the way that this is narrated, the audiobook narration, it's an experience. Like she's going off the mic to say something to the scribe who's like criticizing the way she's narrating the story, and at one point she was like, yeah, just shut up and eat your stew. So I don't know, I'm just really excited. I have high hopes for this. I'm gonna spend the majority of today listening to it until my copy gets here, which is gonna be hard because I want to annotate it, but I know that I'm gonna reread this at some point before the second book comes out. Hey, I'm like in the least chatty mood today. I've been like this the last couple of days actually. I have not been chatty. So every time I turn on the camera, I either talk for 2 seconds and realize that I don't want to say anything and turn it off, or it's like very meandering and nonsensical. So I don't even know how some of the beginning clips for this vlog have gone. They're probably chaotic and don't make any sense, and I probably won't use them. I am almost 20% in and I am really loving it. I fear saying this too early, but I think this could be a favorite pirate series of mine alongside the Life Ship Trader trilogy, although very different vibes. Very different vibes. You know, S.A. Chakraborty is going for fun, a little bit funny, a little murder, a little darkness, whereas Robin Hobb is going for like devastation, wanting you to cry, your characters aren't safe, like nothing's happy, nothing's fun, no one's laughing. So those are the vibes. The people next to me decided to get into a verbal fight, and they're not driving away, so I'm gonna have to update you at a different time. Okay, do you like this aesthetic? Is it even pleasing? I don't know. But I'm gonna try to be quick and give you the rest of the vlog update that I got interrupted by. I don't know if you're gonna be able to hear the muffled voices of the people next to my office, but like, we're just hoping for the best. Anyway, what I was saying was that Amina is a retired pirate. We don't really know why she retired. We don't really even know who the father of her child is, and we haven't really gotten to that point yet. But there's a mysterious woman who comes to her house, and Amina's like, how did this person even find me? Because I'm in the middle of nowhere. No one should know where I live, except for a select few people that I like trust. So she's very confused about how this woman came, and she's like, oh, this seems like a threat. This might be, you know, related to my past. So that's how you kind of know that she has some sort of sketchy past, which I mean, she's a pirate. So that seems to be, you know, with the nature of being a pirate, but it seems that there's more. Like the way that she described it, it felt like there was more, and that it was connected to why she retired. So this woman finds her. It turns out she's not a threat. She's actually the mother of one of Amina's old shipmates who happened to die in an accident that, again, we don't know anything about. And his mom has been left to raise his daughter, and his daughter has been kidnapped by what they call a Frank. And this Frank hasn't like given a ransom note, hasn't given like any type of indication of where he took her or why he took her, but the grandmother is convinced that it is this person that took her. And so she ended up tracking down Amina because she thinks Amina is the only person that would be able to track this Frank and get her granddaughter back. And she also believes that Amina kind of owes her this, but she does say that she will give Amina a really big sum of money that would mean Amina would no longer be poor, and neither would her daughter. So Amina really struggles with this because of her daughter and her family, but ultimately the money wins out and she decides to go on this last great adventure. But when she's leaving, her daughter's like, I have a bad feeling about this, and it means something to Amina, but Amina still goes because of the money. So I'm nervous, but right now in the book, she's like trying to get the crew back together. She's trying to get her old ship, you know, and I love that. I love that. If you need to know anything about me, I love Pirates of the Caribbean, and I think this is giving those vibes. Anyway, I'm afraid somebody's gonna walk into the office at any moment, and I have to get going onto the desk anyway, so I will talk to you later. Hi, I feel like I haven't updated a lot this week because it's just been a really weird week. There's been a lot of storms here in Los Angeles, and as a matter of fact, it's like snowed here. Mainly it's been on like the mountains and the foothills, but it snowed near my house. But because of the weather and the severe raining, there was a leak at the library branch that I normally work at, and it got into the electrical, and so the power's been out for days now, and they're not sure when it's going to come back. That means I've been shuffled around between the different library branches in my library system, and there just isn't enough desks, there isn't enough space for me, so I get to take a vacation day, I guess, tomorrow. I mean, it feels nice to have like an extra day to do things, but it also just feels weird. So I've been feeling really off, and you'll know that because I just said I feel like I haven't been updating that much this week. I literally started the vlog yesterday and I updated like twice. I don't know what I'm talking about. I'm so thrown off. I think because I have this extra time off, I keep thinking today is Friday, and it's not Friday, it's Wednesday. My dudes. And the book came out yesterday. Anyway, I'm all over the place. Obviously, I got my copy. I got my physical copy. I'm like a little over 50% in, and I'm loving it. I'm also loving the fact that I have gotten like the majority of the people who are very active in my Discord to buddy read this with me. I'm such a bad influence in the Discord, and like everyone goes along with it because it's really fun to just buddy read. It's really fun to buddy read in the Discord and with the patrons, and like everyone has different feelings about these books that we're reading. I love it. It's a really good time. Like, I'm trying to slow down my reading for this because some people haven't even gotten their copies yet who are participating in this impromptu buddy read, but I don't know, I'm just loving this so much. And because it's so cold right now, I'm gonna make a decaf chai, cozy up on the couch, and I'm gonna read some of this physically because so far I've only been listening to the audiobook. I do want to annotate this. I just don't think I'm gonna start now since I'm already halfway-ish through this book. But I know that I'm gonna reread this. This is giving me those 5-star feels, you know, the 5-star tingles. But I think I'll read a few chapters of this, and then maybe I'll switch over to Hellbent. I think when I last updated you, I was at the part where she is now going on this mission and trying to get the crew back together. The crew, for the most part, is back together, and that was really fun. It was fun seeing how she brought all of these people back together and seeing what their lives are like now versus what Amina remembers their lives to be like when they were younger. And the fact that even though their lives have changed so dramatically, and some of them have kids and some of them have significant others and have other things going on in their lives, they were still down to go on this adventure with her. And in reality, I think Amina thinks that it's because they miss their old pirate days, but I actually think it's because they respect Amina a lot and they miss being around her and in her presence, because she has such a big presence and she's also very funny. And I'm just loving the fact that she's a 40-year-old protagonist. It is by far one of my favorite things when we have older protagonists, especially in fantasy. So I'm loving this. I just am so sad that I'm gonna have to wait a whole other year to get the second one, and I know I'm gonna be waiting impatiently. Good morning. You know when it's your day off and you just spring out of bed at 7:30 and you're like ready to conquer the day? It's like so hard to get out of bed on a day when you know you have to go to work. But today I didn't have to go to work and I was up at 7 and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna go for a walk because there's a Starbucks down the street. So I'm gonna do two things. I'm gonna get a matcha and go on a walk, and then I'm gonna come home and I'm gonna clean, and then I'm probably gonna sprint and force myself to read the whole day because I don't really do that very often. And I'm just feeling very productive. I'm feeling very happy right now.
$dollars and champagne for the trouble. It's a t-shirt in the backseat of your car. Head down just like your father taught you. Stick around when the walls start to fall. Good God, does anybody notice you sat at the table and you listened to her scream? I know we sure what to believe.
Hello, I'm long overdue for an update because I started Hellbent yesterday and I decided to do some surprise sprints. Mainly because I had an unexpected day off yesterday, which I think I talked about in the last clip, but there was like a power outage. So I was off and I ended up spending like 6 hours sprinting and I got through half of Hellbent. Hellbent's going okay. It's all right. Like I was anticipating it because I was very curious based on the ending of Ninth House, but you know, Ninth House was not my favorite read. I think I gave it like a 3 or 3.5 stars whenever I first read it, and I didn't think that I would be finishing the series, but before I was under the impression that the series was going to be a lot longer, and now it's a trilogy, so I became more interested in Hellbent, and that's why it became an anticipated release for me. But I'm not like enamored with these characters or this world or really even the writing. I feel like I think the writing is great. She's a great writer, and this is probably the strongest her writing has been of all of the things that I've read from her, which I think at this point I have read everything. Anyway, I like the Grishaverse. I really do. I'm very into the Shadow and Bone trilogy. I know that's like a very unpopular opinion, I guess, or not a very common opinion. Most people love Six of Crows more. That being said, this particular series is not something that I love. Like, I'm finding it really easy to put this down, even though it's more fast-paced than Ninth House, and I can imagine that this will be a higher rating than Ninth House. It's also very unserious in the ways that things are described. So to give you the least spoilery synopsis of this that I can, basically this picks up a few months after what happened at the end of Ninth House. And so Alex is on this mission to figure out what happened to Darlington. But on top of that, there are these mysterious murders happening. There were murders that were kind of the core of Ninth House, but those end up getting solved. You know the whole gist of that gets resolved. Now we have these new set of murders, and every time a body is found, they look like they've aged significantly, but the bodies are fresh. So they're trying to figure out what potentially could be doing this, who could be doing this. Is this an actual person, or is there something more sinister going on? Because if you know anything about Ninth House, there are ghosts, although they're called grays in here, and there's some other fantastical elements to this story. And so we don't really know what's going on with that storyline. We just know that these bodies keep turning up, and simultaneously another plotline is unfolding that I don't really want to talk about because I think it could potentially be spoilery for people. So I think that is the most interesting part of the book at the moment. And my food is here. This clip is a mess. My food is here. But what I was saying is that there are elements of this story that are like captivating my interest. But for the most part, I find it really easy to put down. And I think I felt that way about Ninth House. I just feel like the writing doesn't captivate me the way that some other dark academias do. And I'm just like not that invested in Alex as a character. Like, I don't dislike her, but I'm not super invested in her as a character. And so obviously we're following her around the entire time. And something else that's really interesting, I like murder mysteries, and I'm totally cool with somebody being like an amateur sleuth in ways. Like maybe they're not a detective, but they've gotten wrapped into a situation where they are detecting. And Alex is kind of in that, although she's like partnered with this detective who you've met in Ninth House, and they sort of work together. Their relationship is very tenuous. Alex seems to respect and like him more than he likes her or respects her, but they end up always being thrown together and working together. And I think that's really interesting because normally I think in a lot of books that would work for me, but for some reason I just don't care about it. Like, I don't care about that dynamic. And I'm not that invested in Alex trying to figure out what's going on with these bodies, which, I don't know, it just feels weird how uninvested I am in certain things, because in theory, so much of this should be working for me. And I'm not sure like exactly what it is that doesn't work with this series for me, other than like potentially it's just because I'm not invested in the characters, which is a very likely possibility knowing me and my reading. Hi, hello. So Sid from Sid Bookworm is actually doing a readathon this weekend, and so I've been participating in it, and during the sprints I was reading Hellbent. So I just finished it this morning. And let me set you down, actually, because I don't know why I decided to hold the camera. So as I said, I wasn't really having the best time with Hellbent in my last clip, and I realized that I think it's because I'm not attached to any of the characters. And I may have said that in the last clip, but I really came to the realization that this is my problem. I'm not attached to Alex at all. And like, Darlington is an interesting character to me, but I feel like he wasn't really that big of a part of either of these books for me to say that like he could carry me through the series, you know what I mean? I pretty much only care about Dawes, and I also feel like she's not a big enough part of the story for me to like say that she could carry me through the story, because obviously the majority of the story is from Alex's perspective and everything that she's feeling and going through, and like she is a pivotal part to everything that unfolds in the story, and like everything that is set up, Alex is the core of those setups, you know? And so like I would say the last 10% of this book, I had a pretty good time. Like I thought it was the best part of the entirety of the book. And I think that the ending was really interesting. I loved the way that it ended because it was so like fun. And I think it nicely set up for a third book in a way that was like, it's not a cliffhanger, but you can see this going in a bunch of different directions. Now, am I gonna read that third book? No. I'm not. I wasn't really planning on reading the second book, but then the anticipation for it, the community, and like some of my friends were so excited about it and raving about it that it made me start to anticipate this release, which is why it's in this video. And I feel like me not liking it is my own fault, to be honest. Like Ninth House was a 3.5 for me. And again, a big reason for that was I wasn't really attached to the characters and I felt very confused the majority of the time when I was reading it, especially in the beginning. I think for me, like Ninth House in the first half was really confusing and I didn't think I would love it. And then once I hit the halfway mark, I was really into it. I thought it took a really good turn in terms of pacing, in terms of the plot. I was starting to get a lot more interested in the characters. And then the couple of twists at the end, I just like wasn't the biggest fan of. But I don't know, I spent a good majority of this book really confused. And I feel like I remember Ninth House really well. And I thought that I didn't. So I reread the first 50 pages after watching a spoilery review and then talking to my partner about some of the things that happened in Ninth House because they reread it. And I did remember it almost exactly as everyone was describing it. There were a few things that were a bit different. Like in here, I felt as if there were characters that I should have known, but I had no idea where they came from and I wasn't sure why they were a part of the story. And even in the end, I kind of was a little bit confused by some of the characters and some of the choices in the beginning of this book, I guess. But I will say that if you wanted Ninth House to be a little more fantastical, this second installment really opens up the world and really opens up a lot more possibilities for this story to be even more fantastical in the third book. I think overall, the reading experience for me was just fine. Like it was a fine reading experience. It was aggressively fine. But I didn't have a great time, you know what I mean? But if I can give you some positives about this book, which I think are the reasons that people are really loving it, is that Alex can see grays, which are ghosts, and she was able to interact with them in Ninth House, but it was kind of at a surface level. But throughout Ninth House, you do see that barrier kind of breaking down, and I feel like in Hellbent, the way the interactions with the grays ended up going was very interesting. The way that this world is expanding will probably be super interesting for people, and you get to know Alex a lot more. Like you got bits and pieces of her backstory before coming to Yale and getting into the situation that she's in, but overall, you know, there are lots of things that are fairly vague about her and her past. But in here, I think you will get a lot of answers that you're looking for. You'll get a lot of closure. I think if you like the occult stuff that was in Ninth House, it's tenfold here. So I'm sure that'll be really fun for a lot of people. And obviously, if you loved the murder mystery aspect in Ninth House, that is in here as well, and it's very interesting how that plays out also. I think I found the perfect pirate book. So I finished The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi, and I loved it so much. I mean, I would give it a 4.5. I feel that's what I'm like settling on. I finished it this morning, so I think it's a 4.5. It's not exactly that 5-star feel, but this by far for me, because I've read the whole Daevabad trilogy, was a much better introduction to the world than City of Brass was for me. Like, I wasn't as engaged in City of Brass for almost half the book, but in this one I was immediately sucked in. I don't know if that's because I've read all of City of Brass, so I'm like used to S.A. Chakraborty's writing style, but I do feel like this one is more fast-paced and engaging from the start, especially if you're listening to the audiobook. The audiobook is really fun. I really loved Amina as a main character and as the person narrating this story. It's just one of the most perfect pirate books that I have read. It just fulfilled a lot of those things that I want from pirate books that I don't normally get when I read one. It was fun. I love that Amina and her crew were in their 40s, and that in ways she's very reluctant to do this task for this woman, but is really drawn by the money. But once she gets out to sea, she's like, oh, I remember why I used to love doing this. And you know, she reflects on some of the adventures and mishaps that transpired when she was younger, and I just really loved learning about that. But she does talk about a lot of the shenanigans that her and her crew got into when they were younger, and like the things that they would have done if they were younger. So like they were faced with some scenarios in here, and Amina would be like, yeah, if we were this many years younger, we would have probably done X, Y, and Z if we haven't already done something similar to that. This had me laughing. Like, there was a lot of funny moments with it. Amina is very funny, and the crew of side characters in here are also very fun. So this was just fun. It was a really great setup for the rest of the story, but also you get a nice conclusion to things that are happening in this book. It's not like you're left on this major cliffhanger, but this book will definitely make you want to read another one just because it's really fun and it's fast paced. There's actually a lot of commentary on religion. Specifically, our main character is Muslim, and that is talked about a lot, and I really liked those parts. I found it to be really interesting that Amina as a character is so religious and how she engages with that religion in terms of like how she also lives her life. I'm definitely going to look up more reviews about that representation because I myself am not Muslim. Also, this is set in the Daevabad world, but it's like years before you would ever meet anyone in City of Brass. There are little Easter eggs in here that I'm like, oh my god. Also, halfway through this book, you get introduced to a character, and I'm obsessed with this character. Obsessed. I'm so excited to see how they play a role in future books because obsessed. I'm just excited that this was so successful because I was a little bit nervous, and that it was almost a 5-star read for me. Like, this is such a great beginning to a series. I'm gonna be impatiently waiting for the next one. Good morning. It's another rainy day here, which I love. Rainy days make me feel really productive, and I have so many chores to do today, but I wanted to update and say that I'm halfway through Lone Women. Lone Women's fine. I'm not loving it, not hating it. Like, I like the fact that there's this horror element to it, but it's not the most prevalent part of the story. It almost feels like a Western. The thing about this book is it's really hard to even talk about without spoilers or without like giving away something that's kind of important to the plot. I've been trying to think of ways to talk about this book, but the only thing I can think of is that we have a main character, Adeline. Her parents die in the very beginning. It seems that she's responsible for it. She's burning down their house, and she is now on the run. Her goal seems to be that she wants to go to, I think is she in Michigan, Wisconsin, Wyoming? Something like that. She's trying to get to one of those areas so that she can homestead. And basically, if you can homestead on this piece of property and do it successfully, then the government just gives you this property. So she's like, yeah, I'm gonna go homestead and get this property. But the only thing you know about her is that she has some sort of secret, and it seems to be in a trunk that she's carrying everywhere with her. And that's all I can really say, because the people she meets along the way, the situations she gets to along the way, and then subsequently while she's there on the land doing her homesteading, it's like very important to, I think, what's going to be the major reveal in here, unless there's another major reveal. But yeah, I'm halfway and you already get a pretty big reveal. So it's fine. I like a lot of the commentary in here, but that's just very on par for Victor Laval. But I feel like the writing is not captivating me in any type of way, and I don't really have a connection to Adeline the way that I want to, so it feels weird. Like, I like the horror element and I like the homesteading elements, but otherwise, I don't know, I just feel like I'm not connected to Adeline. But I think I'm gonna be able to finish it today. It's Friday, so you know what that means. It's cleaning day, but not only is it cleaning day, but it's also wash my hair day. I hate that day, but that's what today is. It all just kind of fell on the same day, and hopefully I will have finished the book and can close out this vlog. Hello, I just got done cleaning and I still look like this because I literally just finished and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna update and then go take a shower and just chill for the rest of the day. I deep cleaned from 9:30 a.m. until it's like 2:40 right now. I don't know what came over me. Depression? Probably. As you can probably guess, I did finish Lone Women and it was a 3 stars. Again, this is a really hard book to talk about because it relies on a lot of the reveals, and those reveals are tied to a lot of the discussions and character growth that you get. So it's very hard to talk about without giving anything away. I think that I went into this with the wrong expectations of what this book was going to be, just based off of things that I've read from Victor Laval before. And his writing was definitely there. I did like the horror aspects, but it just wasn't everything that I was expecting, especially for how much I love The Changeling. I really, really loved my experience reading The Changeling, and so I think my expectations were a little bit too high. I think there's a lot of amazing aspects to this book and a lot of commentary in here that I always appreciate from Victor Laval, no matter if I love a book by him or if I just think a book is okay by him. The commentary is always 5 out of 5. I guess I just wasn't really attached to our main character in any meaningful type of way. Like, I felt for her and I was very intrigued by her storyline to some degree, but I wasn't like super attached, and I felt like if I would have just put this book down, I wouldn't have picked it back up. But ultimately, I'm glad that I finished it because I did like the ending, but I'm scared that this is going to be a book that I just forget after a month or so. I'm just gonna forget everything about it. I can 100% see why somebody would give this 5 stars, why this could be a favorite, why this can be very disturbing. And it's not to say that the horror elements in here are not disturbing. It's just like it didn't really disturb me the way that I was kind of expecting, I guess, or wanted. And I especially think that my issue with that is that there's not a lot of build up to this creepiness, this weird entity. So I don't know. I find this book hard to talk about for 2 reasons. Obviously the spoilers, but also because I wasn't like infatuated with it, but I also didn't hate it. So I find 3 stars that are just like aggressively 3 stars to be very hard for me to talk about, because it's not like I have a lot to say that I hated, because I liked it enough to give it 3 stars. 3 stars is a good rating, but I didn't love it to the point where I have a lot to gush about. So I'm sorry this review sucks. I really think it just comes down to the writing was just fine. Like the commentary, wonderful, 10 out of 10, but the writing itself just wasn't as compelling for me as his other works that I've read, and I wasn't as attached to the main character. So anyway, I read 3 anticipated releases and only one of them actually like lived up to expectations, lived up to the hype that I had in my head for it, and that's really sad. I'm not feeling great about this vlog. I'm not feeling great about things that I'm anticipating anymore. As a matter of fact, I've been much less excited about books these days, like new releases, more than ever before. Like to the point that I actually haven't been looking at new releases. I haven't really been keeping myself up to date with new releases. So yeah, that's where I'm at. Also, I'm extremely obsessed with The Last of Us. I got through the first game, starting the second game. I'm up to date with the show. I've rewatched it, as a matter of fact, and it's all I can think about. So I think I'm gonna go play that game. Anyway, sorry for this lackluster vlog. Let me know your last 5-star read. I'm so curious. What is your last 5-star read? I would love to know. And if you've made it this far and have nothing to say, leave a bunny emoji in the comments down below, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.